Mirë mbrëma. Mua më quajnë Renis Nushaj, jam avokat dhe kam shërbyer komunitetin shqiptar këtu në shtetin në tonë për shumë vitesh. Her pas here me ndihmën e ACTV kam pasur kënaqësinë të sjell këtu në studio kandidat për pozicione ndryshme politike gjatë viteve. Sot kam kënaqësinë të sjell Tonya Goetz, e cila është kandidate për gjykatëse në qytetin e Troy dhe Clawson për 52-4 District Court. Është kënaqësia ime ta sjell atë këtu ta prezantoj me komunitetin tonë dhe të kërkoj ndihmën e komunitetit tonë gjatë fushatës që po vijon deri në 8 nëntor. Tonya, welcome. It's such a pleasure having you here. Thank you for participating.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come and for taking the time to speak with me. I really do appreciate your support and your interest in my campaign to become the next judge in the 52-4 District Court, which represents Troy and Clawson.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Obviously, we have a lot of questions. We want to know more about you. We want to know as much as we can about you. First of all, tell us about who you are, what do you do, and what is the position that you're seeking in this campaign?
Well, first of all, my name is Tonya Goetz. Clawson is my maiden name. I am currently living in Troy, where I've been for almost 15 years with my wonderful husband, Eric, as well as our 2 children, William, who's soon to be 14, going into 8th grade, as well as Christina, who is 12, going into 7th grade. We live in the Raintree subdivision. We chose Troy because we wanted a community. My husband grew up in Troy, and we knew when we wanted to find a place that was diverse, that had a great educational system, as well as a wonderful community, that Troy and the neighboring Clawson were where we needed to be.
Excellent. Tonya, I know you work as an attorney. You're obviously an attorney. What do you do as an attorney? What is your job? How long have you been in it? Tell us more about that.
Currently, I am the chief of the juvenile division in the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office. I have had the honor and privilege of being an assistant prosecutor for almost 24 years. I have started from being a level 1 assistant prosecutor, and I've risen to the level of chief. I have done everything in the office, from authorizing warrants, conducting district court cases with misdemeanors, up through serious felony cases. I know the importance of serving the public, as well as ensuring that victims are protected, defendants' rights are protected, but also ensuring that justice is served. That has been what I've done for over 23 years, and as judge, that's what I intend on doing for our community in Clawson and Troy.
Thank you. And would you mind telling us more about your educational background that you bring?
Of course. I am from Michigan. I went to high school at Liggett. I went to out of state at Vassar College in New York, where I received a Bachelor's of Arts. And then I also received my Juris Doctorate, my law degree, at Boston University. But Michigan kept calling me back, and I decided that Michigan was where I needed to be and where I love being.
Well, we're grateful that you're back. We're grateful that Michigan called you back. Now you're running to be the district court judge. For those of us and those in our community that may not be aware because they've never had to deal with our court system, what is our court system like? What does the district court do versus the circuit court? Tell us more about that.
District courts are the people's court. This is where everything that happens in Troy and Clawson starts with, from tickets, through misdemeanors, which are charges which are which have the penalty for being in jail for up to a year, through serious felonies, which could be serious drug offenses, through homicides. Everything that occurs funnels in through our district court. Our district courts will handle and support with the community, and these are decisions that are done where, and I should say, and also civil cases that are under $25,000 and small claims. Our district court judges act as our referees for every decision that can't be resolved. When we have 2 parties, whether it's in a criminal case or whether it's a civil case that can't be resolved, it's our judges that are responsible for making the decisions as to who's ruled in favor, who's granted money or not, or who's found guilty or not found guilty, as well as whether a case should be sent up to circuit court. And our circuit courts handle the more serious cases. Our circuit courts handle anything that's punishable by up to over a year, as well as civil cases that are over $25,000. So it's important, I think, that with the district court judge, we have someone who not only understands our community, but is also respectful, because our community is diverse, but also it's also important that someone has the patience to also work with people.
Excellent. And now, speaking about our district court in Troy and Clawson that covers this particular jurisdiction, there's been many judges that have gone through the years through the district court, have served the public. You're asking to be the next judge. Why are you running? What are the issues currently in our district court?
I decided to run because it's been a dream of mine for a long time to be a judge. I know the importance of judges, how they play in people's lives, whether it's from a ticket up through a serious crime, because laws are not only based on, and I should say, I apologize. What I meant to say, and I stumbled over my words, is that justice is not only based on the laws, but more importantly on the people that are interpreting those laws. And in our case for our district court, I have read in the paper about the federal lawsuit that was filed. And that was filed based on the incumbent's behaviors, which is extremely troubling when we have a judge who is creating a hostile work environment, who is in a position of power where people are not treated with dignity. Because it is a judge's responsibility to do that. Also, I not only read the news reports, but I also spoke to people in the community, because I think it's important to listen to our community. And I spoke with people who have been in front of her. I spoke with attorneys on both sides, not just prosecutors, but also defense attorneys and civil attorneys, court staff, and law enforcement, who all expressed significant concerns about what's going on in our courtrooms, specifically with a judge who they're concerned is not abiding by the law, and also who is putting out dangerous people into our community and not treating people in a fair and dignified manner.
Thank you. And because we are in that topic, I think it's important. How should a judge behave? Obviously, most of the members of our community and our community throughout don't get to go to our district courts. They may go there once in a lifetime, if that. What should they expect to see, and what do they currently see?
Well, currently, what people are seeing, or someone who is not treating people with respect, who's not treating people equally, and who is deciding at times not to always follow the law. What you should expect, though, from a judge is supposed to be fair and impartial. Those words that are on the Supreme Court building, are equal rights under law, aren't just words that are supposed to be just thrown out. That's supposed to be how judges abide and follow. We are supposed to treat everyone equal no matter what. We are supposed to administer the law regardless of if we like the law or like the people. We are supposed to treat everyone equally and with dignity. That's what a judge is supposed to do.
And obviously, there's a series, we've talked a lot about the fact that you're an attorney and you've been in the community, you've worked in the community for a long time, you've worked as a prosecutor, doing with a myriad of responsibilities, I presume. Now, what are the qualifications of a judge to be the judge of our district court?
Well, first of all, you need to be ethical. You need to be knowledgeable of the law, and you need to act in a professional manner. I know that you may wonder why I put ethics before knowledge of the law. They're equally important, but I think that it's extremely important that a judge be respectful, ethical, always go to make the extra mile to make sure that justice is served and treating people fairly. not ignoring the law, not doing whatever you want with respect to the law. Also, I think it's important to be knowledgeable of the law. And I can say that that I have over 23 years of experience as a prosecutor. And I know that many people may think that being a prosecutor means that I just specialize in criminal law. That's not so. I've been responsible for not being knowledgeable of constitutional law, civil law, family law, criminal and civil procedure in my job. And so that you need someone who is adept at knowing all aspects of the law, but also someone who can figure it out quickly and be able to render opinions in a quick manner, because the public deserves to have decisions made in a quick and efficient manner.
Thank you. And how are you involved in the legal community? Obviously, there's a lot of organizations, memberships, things that you do over the course of your day. What are some of those things? Could you please enlighten us?
Well, I am a member of the Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, as well as a member of the Wolverine Bar. I'm on the Governor's Task Force for child abuse, as well as the District, oh, good Lord, the Ethics Committee. Good Lord, why can I not remember this? The Ethics Committee. Eric, can you help me?
The Governor's Task Force on Ethics?
Pardon?
Is it the Governor's Task Force on Ethics?
No, it's the Governor's Task Force against child abuse, and then it's the Character and Fitness Committee.
Very good.
Okay. We're going to have to clean that one up.
Yes, indeed. I'll ask that question again.
Yes.
Yeah. And obviously, you're involved in the legal community, as all attorneys are, I'm sure. Could you tell us more about your involvement?
I am a member of the Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, as well as the Wolverine Bar Association. I was recently appointed, based on my years of experience and qualifications, to be on the Governor's Task Force against child abuse, as well as I was also asked to be on the Committee of Character and Fitness in the district where I work and practice.
Excellent. And now, obviously, we've talked a lot about your qualifications, the job that you're seeking. What is the process for someone becoming a district court judge in our state?
Well, our district courts are elected by the people. This is a public office, which means that part of that process is not only being on interviews with you so that the public can get to know me, going door to door, doing fundraisers, and also making sure that people know who I am so that they know that they can vote for me. We have an election coming up on November 8th, and I ask that you vote for me. We have ballots, the absentee ballots, which are also very important. This is a process where we get to make a referendum on how the current judge is doing. And right now, I believe that it's in our best interest that you elect me as opposed to the incumbent, because I know that our district court deserves better. We deserve someone who's ethical, professional, and responsible.
And so now you briefly talked about, basically the campaign portions of seeking this particular office. As far as you personally, what are you doing for purposes of the campaign?
Well, I am going door to door and meeting the public. We're working with Facebook and getting our message out through Facebook and Instagram. We also have a website. I'm asking people that I know, as well as when I meet and they show enthusiasm about our campaign, to help volunteer. And I welcome anyone. You can go on our website, getsforjudge.com, as well as our email address is getsforjudge@gmail.com, to offer your support, your encouragement. It's not just about the money, but it's also about putting out the word for voting for Tonya Goetz.
Thank you. And now you spoke of the issues that you spoke about, ethics being the central focus of this particular district court race. And I, as a member of the legal community, have also seen some of these articles that have been published in the Free Press and the Detroit News about current ethics issues. And I wanted to ask your opinion and your thoughts on all these issues one by one. First of all, one of the articles that we saw was with respect to the federal lawsuit that you alluded to earlier. What was that lawsuit all about? What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, this lawsuit is regarding the incumbent's behavior that created a hostile work environment at the court. To me, this is shocking. I have worked in courts even before I became a lawyer. I worked as a student lawyer, and I know the importance of how a court works and the importance of treating not only your staff with respect, but also the reliance that you have on a court and the dignity that's required in order to work with the public. These are hard jobs that court staff have. They are working with the public who are dealing many times with very sensitive issues. I often say that most people do not come to court as a vacation spot. And I find it extremely troubling that not only do we have staff who are dealing with sometimes highly volatile issues, but we have a judge who's creating even more issues.
And now, one of the other items of interest that could be found in these articles was an investigation from the Judicial Tenure Commission of the current judge. What are your thoughts on that particular item? What do you know? What do we know? What don't we know?
And if I may, and I apologize, I want to just get back to the last
Absolutely.
question. I think it's also even more troubling because judges are held to a higher standard. Judges are supposed to act in a professional, respectful, and dignified manner. Those are in the canons. So I find it troubling that her behavior has come to such a point where we have a federal lawsuit and our court, which means our tax-paying dollars, are being spent at this very moment based on this judge's behavior. But as to, and I apologize for interrupting.
That's fine. And actually, while you're at it, what are the canons? What do the canons entail, and why are they important for these particular positions?
Canons are the rules that judges are supposed to follow as to their behavior, in court as well as out of court. I think so many times, I think people think that once judges are off the bench, that's where their behavior stops. That's not so. The canons are rules that tell judges that they are not only supposed to act on the bench in a professional, courteous, and respectful manner, but they're also supposed to do that off the bench, which includes how they treat their staff. And it's very troubling that you have a judge who has, and I know that these are allegations, that are accused of doing such horrific things.
Yet another issue, it seems it was a season of issues for the current judge. One of the other issues that we heard of was the fight that has been going on between the current judge and the prosecutor's office with respect to dismissal of cases such as armed robbery cases with prejudice. Can you tell us about that? What is the meaning behind that particular event, those particular dismissals? When do they happen? Should it have happened?
The news that I read is extremely shocking to me. In my over 23 years as being a trial attorney, I have never heard of a judge dismissing 20 cases with prejudice against the prosecutor's office. When we have, and the basis for that is a prosecutor was not available. I have not heard anywhere that anyone, normally when you have cases that are dismissed with prejudice that I've ever heard of, they've only been in case law. I've never seen it in real life. And those have been cases where you have had prosecutors lie under oath, there have been egregious injustices done, where it is clear that someone is going after a defendant for just pure personal reasons. There's been no allegations in any of these cases that this has happened. It is mind-boggling that a judge who has been told by a higher court that the law that she has been that the law she's relying on to punish the prosecution is not correct, and yet she still continued to do it. I find it unfathomable that we have a judge who is going out of her way, which appears to be at war with the prosecution. This is so concerning to me, not only as a prosecutor, but also as someone who lives in our community. We live in Troy and Clawson. Many of us live in the surrounding areas. It is extremely troubling that with serious cases, that a judge would do this. But I can tell you this even more. Even if this were less serious cases, these would still be cases that are serious to the people and the victims that are involved in them. This puts victims in a position where their cases cannot be restarted without having to go to a higher court, without extra money being paid, extra manpower and hours being done, because of what appears to be a personal vendetta by our incoming judge, the incumbent judge.
Troubling indeed, and I agree with you. And I certainly sympathize with the idea that this election will ultimately be on ethics, and why ethics ought to prevail is crucially important. Can you tell us of a time when ethics were an issue over the course of your practice, when you were forced to do the ethical thing over what you could have done otherwise?
Well, I can tell you, I just had an incident right now where we looked and thought, we have some young people. And the question was, do we need to give them Miranda rights? These were children, these are people who are incarcerated. And normally if they're incarcerated, we're not asking any other information for them, and they're just being witnesses. The question was, well, let's just have the police ask questions. But I stood back and I stopped, and I realized I need to make sure that everyone understands their rights, that they don't have to talk to the police if they don't want to. Let's do a different one.
You got to do, Ben, this is a cut one. You have to do, I neglected to tell you, you have to do the example that you utilized at the beginning. Again, I agree that the issues...
Let me do my original one.
Yeah. I agree that the issues in this campaign surround ethics. Can you tell us of a time when ethics became an issue over the course of your practice of law? How did you handle yourself, and how you could have handled yourself, and how did you handle yourself?
A case came about where 2 young people were charged with armed robbery. I realized after looking at the case and speaking with officers, as well as the victim, that that wasn't the case. It wasn't an armed robbery. I had at times, my victim wanted prison, he wanted something more, but the case and the facts did not support it. And I had to tell the victim, I know what you want, I know that you're upset, but the law isn't on our side, and the facts do not support what you want. And because right is right and wrong is wrong.
So in other terms, being the ethical person, making those ethical choices, is doing the right thing no matter what.
Correct. I've never been a win-at-all-cost prosecutor. I've always been someone who wants and works, not only wants, but works to ensure that justice is served. I think it's important that when I look at a case, I look at it from all sides. If I hear from the defense that there's someone that I should speak to or some document that I should look at, I will look at it. I will address it. I will look at the law. And I have made decisions not based on winning, but making sure that justice is served and all parties and everyone's rights are protected. Not just my victims, not just law enforcement, not just the defendants, but everyone's. Because that's what a prosecutor is supposed to do, but more importantly, that's what a judge is supposed to do. And that's why I'm running, because there's a concern from so many people in our community that our current judge is not doing that.
And now, if elected, election is coming up on November 8th. If elected, what would you do differently in our district court?
Well, I would do three main things. The first is that I would bring back professionalism and respect back to our courts. And not just in words, but how I treat people, making sure that our court staff is treated with dignity, as well as making sure that everyone that comes before me is treated with respect. There will be no yelling and screaming based on how people are dressed or talking to people if they have accents or if they talk in a different way and they don't know the legal terms. Second, I will work on making sure that our court is serving the public more by shortening the waiting times. I am told at times that people sometimes have to wait up to almost an hour from the time that they leave the court until until when they leave in front of the judge, to when they leave court with whatever necessary paperwork they have and a new court date if necessary. I will also work to ensure that our court works more with attorneys as well as parties that appear without attorneys to work with their schedules, because our court is supposed to work for the public. It's not supposed to work the other way around.
It's funny you say that. As a matter of fact, today I ran late coming here by a few minutes on account of the fact that our district court, the 52-4 district court, took close to 45 minutes to process the file, which my client and I were working on with our district court judge, with our current judge. Those are absolute necessities in any district court system, and certainly refreshing to hear that such are the changes that you would propose to make.
Well, I find it fascinating that you're still waiting, because the incumbent, the last time that this issue was raised, and I raised this issue, she said that she thought that it was a good idea. So I'm surprised that she hasn't already implemented that.
So obviously a portion of the election has already occurred with early in August. Now, as we go into November 8th, can you explain what's left in this campaign and what should people do concerning the election?
Well, we got through the primary, and I have to thank everyone for their support. We did it and got enough votes to get into the November election. I so appreciate everyone's vote, everyone telling people to vote for me, as well as supporting me financially, as well as with signs. So now it gets real. We're in the November election, which is November 8th. There's also absentee ballots will be going out. If you haven't filled them out, you still have time to fill out and request one. But if you don't, you can still go in person and vote. I ask that not only you tell everyone that you know that lives in our district, which is Troy and Clawson, to vote for me. I ask that you vote for me, and I also ask that you support me. You can reach us at getsforjudge@gmail.com or getsforjudge.com, which is our website. Thank you so much. I have gotten this far because of your support, Renis. I truly appreciate it. But also with the support of everyone else. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. District Court Tonya Goetz, Bisede, Kandidatja, Tonya Goetz, nothing more.